rehab, especially pediatric rehab. And I have a master's in health management and leadership. I've worked on 3 continents, namely Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. And I've headed rehab for a Johns Hopkins facility in Abu Dhabi, headed rehab for the Abu Dhabi government across 9 centers. And the vision was always to come home and to sort of make things a little better for where we are in Africa.
Okay, so that's quite an international. Well, yeah, we need you on the United Nations. Right. So tell us a little bit about your boss, Dr. Tayyab.
Dr. Tayyab. He can do that for himself. But Dr. Tayyab is, I would say, he's a man of action. And where he sees the need to make a difference, however small it is, he does exactly that. Where others talk, he takes action. And that's what brought us together, is a passion to do better for humanity and people.
Okay, before we get Dr. Tayyab on the line to join us, we're just going to ask you to briefly explain today's topic, which is the post-traumatic stress syndrome, and then we'll go ahead with it.
Sure. So, Dr. Bhayat, you know that mental health is a topic that nobody wants to talk about. It's always something that's sort of swept under the carpet. And if we think about it, you know, the World Health Organization talks about 1 person dies every 40 seconds because of a mental health issue. We have 1 billion people across the globe right now with mental health issues. And it's funny when you think about PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder, you think, there must have been something really bad that happened for you to have PTSD. But a friend of mine, or actually a colleague, and I were driving, and she was saying, have you ever experienced a hijacking or, you know, a burglary? And we live with that every day in South Africa, right? So when you think of PTSD, you think of it as being a big thing, but it's all the little things that build to you having something like PTSD. So when, and it's sort of retained within you, and that is the issue.
Okay. We're going to take this opportunity now to welcome Dr. Tayyab. Dr. Tayyab, are you there?
Hopefully. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
I hope you're not asking me if I'm all there.
No, we know you're not all there. We're just asking if you're on the line. Okay.
Given that it's mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself, Dr. Tayyab. Where do you practice? What's your qualifications, etc.?
Well, there isn't much to say. I'm from Middelburg, Mpumalanga, small little dorpy out here. I've qualified at the Nelson Mandela Medical School of Medicine in Durban in 1988. And I have practiced for a while. And I then started getting involved in clinical trials. In the last 25 years, I've been focusing some of my time in humanitarian work. So that's basically me.
Okay, and tell us a little bit about what's going on in Lebanon and your program in Lebanon.
So Lebanon is a quite interesting area because the refugees there are Palestinian and Syrian refugees. So the program, I think what we're talking about today is specifically just on one component of what we're doing out there, and that's the mental health component. Just to give you an idea, most of the refugee camps, there's over 1 million refugees. The Palestinians, non-entities, if you want to call it that, they are literally refugees for generations. They don't have access to adequate healthcare. They don't have access to adequate education. They do not have access to meaningful jobs. So they are in this vicious cycle of extreme poverty, and that brings on all the mental health conditions of depression, anxiety. I mean, we're talking about PTSD. PTSD is something. I'm not an expert on it. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I have some idea. It's kind of an event that takes place, and then subsequently you relive these events. But now, if you're living in a situation, one of those camps that are walled off, literally like almost like in West Bank or Gaza, it's actually worse out there. You are continuously experiencing trauma. So where does the trauma end and where does PTSD begin? It's like a very confusing type of setup, and it's a continuous vicious cycle that just feeds into itself, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So yeah, it's quite challenging out there, and we hope we can make a difference.
Okay. So what is PTSD and how is it different from normal stress?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, PTSD is like Dr. Teo, touched on. So it's a prolonged, intense response to trauma, and that disrupts daily life. While stress is temporary and often manageable, PTSD symptoms persist for months, years, and affects emotions, it affects sleep, it affects relationships. So yes, we say that PTSD is a mental health condition that can occur to actually anyone. Whether you experience it or witness a traumatic event, and it can be, like we said, conflict, accidents, abuse, or natural disasters.
Okay. And what would the symptoms of PTSD be?
So you would see things like nightmares, disturbed sleep patterns, flashbacks. So something that reminds or triggers a reminder of the situation, intrusive thoughts, like I'm in danger now. Things that remind you of trauma, you start to avoid. Then you get what we call, mood changes. So negative mood or thoughts. And it's that whole thing of flight, fright. So it's this heightened sense of anxiety that does not go away.
Okay. And, you said that you dealt with a lot of kids in Lebanon, right? Tell me, are there degrees of PTSD, like a child who suffers from some sort of trauma here in South Africa compared to what the child has seen in Gaza, for example? So it's two different things. So do you get degrees of PTSD in children, or is it just one level that's treated in a similar way across the entire scope?
Dr. Teo, I'm going to ask you to come in here. But what I would like to say is none of us, we may experience the same event, but none of us, we all individuals, and therefore we experience things, although it might be the same in different ways. So how I experience something may be very different to the way you experience something. So when we talk about levels of trauma, it may seem minor to somebody else, but it can be quite dramatic and traumatic for me. So we can never say that if you think about it, children here do experience trauma. Right? We've got one of the highest levels of gender-based violence in the world. right? So we cannot say, and I can't say that children here are experiencing less trauma than children there who are in Gaza, but war and sustained conflict definitely tops the list. What do you think, Dr. Tayob?
Absolutely, I agree with you totally. The situation in specifically Lebanon and by extension different areas that are facing conflict is compounded by the fact that there is no hope. People are literally hopeless. In probably in our country, even though you're experiencing trauma, there are opportunities to get some kind of therapy, to be able, there is an opportunity to kind of get out of that vicious cycle. But in a situation where you kind of cooped up in the camp, and there's no, I mean, for generations, people see that there's no opportunity, there's no way out. You are literally in a confined area, very similar to Gaza. And there's no hope for you. So it's very difficult, and there's no opportunity to get adequate therapy. There's extreme poverty. There's depression, anxiety, addiction, aggression, chronic illnesses. It's not just affecting children. I mean, the adults as well. And this cycle just perpetuates continuously. So it's like very frustrating kind of tension that's building up and bottling up there. And there's no way, there's no escape, there's no release, there's no pressure valve to release the stress and pressure. So it is extremely difficult, much more difficult than we would see here or any other area which is not in a conflict zone. Okay, and so even those areas in a conflict zone, they still have some opportunity, some way out. These people are locked in. It's like really, really frustrating, very difficult to explain.
So with these challenges that you've just mentioned now, I'm sure that there are many PTSD cases that are unaddressed. So how is unaddressed PTSD seen?
Like I said, it manifests in many different ways, and it depends on each person's experience. Depression, anxiety, addiction, aggression, formation of gangs, chronic illness. You get pushed into a survival mode, and it's like you have to survive. It's everyone for themselves, and it affects their learning, affects their relationships, how they relate to each other, trust. So it's quite complex, and it's quite severe. And this just gets worse. It doesn't get any better as you grow older.
So the work that you're doing there in Lebanon, I'm sure you are collecting a lot of data, doing a lot of research, and finding ways for practical support on the ground, etc. How are you guys going about doing this, and how do you translate all this research into practical support?
So it's still early days, and we're gathering the data. But I think what I need to also, I think would be important to mention is that we have a lot of support from different organizations. So we leverage, the resources from other organizations. For example, IMA itself, Dr. Bhayat from Valcom assists us in terms of the volunteers. There are a lot of volunteers in the IMA globally and other organizations as well. We have Dr. Shafiqa Mayat, who's assisting us in the telehealth kind of side. So while we are busy implementing interventions, we are also developing telehealth platforms, using technology to the best possible way we can. We have assistance from political people like our ambassador Ashraf Suleiman in the region. So we draw onto a lot of people's resources, advice from people like Solly Suleiman from Sparkport. There's a whole lot of people that are involved in this. Ashraful Aid, Mufti Sohail Wadi. And this, we're not only doing it in Lebanon, we're doing it in Afghanistan, we're doing it in some parts of Africa. And it's mostly led by the ulama. So it's quite interesting that the ulama has requested these kind of assistance from medical and educational things. So, and then we get a lot of assistance, like I say, volunteers from the different therapeutic or therapists and medical doctors and specialists. So like in terms of data, it's still early days, we're starting to accumulate. But I think the bigger plan here is that we're hoping and praying that Gaza does open. And if Gaza does open, where would all these people go for healthcare? So if you look at the geography of the region, you have Lebanon just sitting north of Gaza. And if you have the opportunity to ferry patients from Gaza to Beirut, which is a 5-hour boat ride, and Beirut and Lebanon itself has, there are resources that are available that we could utilize. And there are additional resources we'd like to implement or establish in the area. So, you know, when we get the flood of patients or people coming out, so it's not just mental health, but it's a whole health ecosystem that we're trying to set up there.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to be discussing the importance of this kinds of therapies in conflict zones.
Teaching you something new every day. Radio Al-Ansar.
Welcome to Simplex Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio. Our TV department carries top brands with quality LED panels, full HD to Ultra HD, and now the experience of Super Ultra HD. Visit our theater rooms and transform your home with brands like Onkyo, Integra, Denon, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha, and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available, full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 031 306 4029 or Kenilworth Park, 202 Brickfield Road, Overport. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
Craving for an easy, spicy and delicious meal made in minutes? Introducing Easy Mee Goreng, Korean-style instant noodles from Noodle King. This delicious, flavorful noodles is ready in minutes with a kick in every bite. Get your pack of Easy Mee Goreng at a retail store near you. Noodle King also boasts a whole variety of other delicious pantry must-haves. Look out for our brands at your favorite retail stores. Get ready to elevate your fitness game at First Fitness in Durban's Berea. With a spacious free weight area, award-winning equipment, and exclusive ladies-only parking and training level, we've got everything you need to crush your goals. Hit the ground running on our outdoor track or unleash your inner warrior in our MMA and boxing dungeon. Plus, enjoy high security and ample parking. And don't forget to refuel at our halal coffee and health restaurant for the best in coffees, smoothies, and healthy eats. Join us today and redefine your fitness journey. First Fitness, dare to be extraordinary.
The Al-Ansar Cancer Support Group hosts its annual Chai Day on Saturday, 25th October 2025 at the Al-Ansar Hall, 189 West Road, Overport. A humble appeal is made to you to contribute mini cakes and savories for our tea garden. To pledge your support, kindly contact Zora Barak on 064 963 1193.
Radio Al-Ansar, 24/7, 365.
Doctors and guests on a Medical Files program will help you with any medical problems you have by giving you advice on air. However, they do not have your full medical history and they have not seen you. Please verify the advice given to you on air with your doctor who knows you better. Neither the doctors nor Radio Al-Ansar will be held responsible for any ill health caused by the advice given on Radio Al-Ansar.
Welcome back to Medical Files, brought to you by the Islamic Medical Association of South Africa. I am your host today, Dr. Arshad Bhayat, and we have our guest in studio, NADIA Bhayat, who is a neurorehabilitation specialist. And on the line, we have with us Dr. M.S. Tayyab from Middelburg, who heads the, I think, what's it called? The TBF.
Tayyab Basa Foundation.
The Tayyab Basa Foundation. Who are presently working in Lebanon, dealing with children who are suffering from PTSD. Dr. Tayyab, can you elaborate a little bit more on what epigenetics is and why is it important?
Can I take that
Okay,
question?
you can take that one, not a problem.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So I think that for me was really a game changer when I thought about it, because trauma doesn't just affect the mind, but it affects the way your genes or our genes work. So epigenetics is the science of how our environment and experiences influence the way in which our genes are expressed. So if you think of your DNA as being the hardware, epigenetics is the software that decides which programs run, when, and how strong these programs are. So our genes can be turned on and turned off by the chemical tags that attach to DNA. Right? So when these tags are influenced by things like stress, poor nutrition, trauma, a lack of nurturing or neglect, then you experience what we call chronic trauma, high stress, or PTSD, right? And what that does in your body is you have these high cortisol levels. We talk about adrenal fatigue, adrenaline levels that are high, and it's over a prolonged period of time, and that changes the brain's stress circuits, right? And you can sort of keep your body in this flight fright mechanism. I mean, we all hear about amazing things about how children are rescued under rubble for 3 days. Can you imagine that level of sustained flight or fright? Can you imagine what that's like, right? So it's that whole thing of memory and fear conditioning. And for me, that is quite serious, because I can be third generation refugee. So I haven't experienced the trauma, but I live in Lebanon. I live in a refugee camp. But it's from the experiences that are relived. So it's almost secondary trauma. I hear it from my parents. I hear it from my grandparents. And it's carried at a cellular level. And I experience it, though I've not been there. So that's the scary thing about epigenetics.
Okay, and how would one overcome this?
So like we can turn them on,
Mm-hmm.
we can turn them off. And that's what the key is. And that is why we're doing the work we're doing on the mental health platform.
So when you say you'll be able to turn it off, do you mean by with therapy or
With
by
therapy
using some
and
sort
the
of medicine
programs. So it's a therapy and the programs, the
Mhm.
support that we do.
Mhm.
So, and how we change that. So, it's like, how do we now calm down a system? How do we decrease levels of stress and anxiety? Would you believe you would see high stress and high anxiety in 2 and 3-year-olds?
Mhm. Yeah, you see, I've always understood this type of therapy where someone is having some sort of post-traumatic stress. That's the first thing that they would do in initiating therapy would be to remove this person from the stressful situation, and then from there work on it. Now, in this case, you are working with people who are stuck in that stressful situation. So how do you go about dealing with it and giving therapy to these kind of people?
So I always say your mind can make a heaven out of hell or a hell out of heaven,
Mhm.
right? And we talk about this thing called resilience, and we see it, right? We see these children in absolutely nothing, in rubble, and they smile. Right. So it's almost now, how do we make that, or it's that power of positivity, and how can we make that something that where's the hope? And that is what I think Dr. Tayeb was talking about, right? So how do you give people hope who see no hope from one generation to another to another? So we've got to do better,
Mhm.
right?
So if I can,
yeah, you can come in, Doc.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, so the situation obviously needs to be addressed. There's a number of ways we can address it. One is to overcome the boundaries that are placed on these refugees. Like I said, in a Palestinian refugee in the camp is basically doesn't exist as a human being. And for us to find a way to get them out of that kind of environment, we plan to leverage technology. And one of the ways that we're looking at is, I said we focus a lot on education and healthcare. So if you can teach people a trade or a profession, and if you can give them good health, they will take care of themselves. So we are implementing, we haven't started, but we're in the process of implementing online training in AI for a number of students that we've chosen in the refugee camps. And it's a 10-month training program, and we're hoping that once we're done with that, these people will be able to sell their services online globally, something like what India has done with the IT revolution there. So there are other ways of also training people who can work online in different industries. So that's one of the plans, to try and empower these people and try to get them generating some form of income. It's very difficult in the refugee camps. For example, if you need to go to see a clinic, there are clinics in the area which are, some of them are funded by URWA, and the patient has to pay $10. And for people living in a refugee camp who have nothing, who don't have opportunity to earn anything really, $10 is a lot of money for them, So there's no free healthcare in the refugee camps as well. So it's just, like I said, it's not just about mental health. It's the whole gambit. You have people who have cancers, oncology patients. They don't have access to healthcare. Patients with simple infections that just produce and get worse and eventually gangrenous. And it's really, really difficult environment. So one is up to empower people in there, and others to bring in healthcare services on different levels. They speak Arabic mostly, so we're looking at volunteers and also people online and placing them in these environments. We're fortunate that we have the authorities who are willing to allow us to bring in people into these camps for 3 months, 6 months, a year at a time to assist in different medical areas, including healthcare.
Okay. Reminder to our listeners that you can send in any questions or queries to 060-904-1056. That number again is 060-904-1056. We have Anonymous with a message, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Off the topic, what languages do your two guests speak apart from English?
So I speak English, of course, Afrikaans, a little bit of isiZulu, and I speak Arabic because I was in the Middle East for about 15 years.
And Dr. Taib?
English, Afrikaans, isiZulu, Xhosa. I understand Urdu, and when my wife shouts me in Gujarati, I understand that. But and maybe a few words in some of the languages like Swahili, and few, but not much.
Okay, Anonymous, hope that answers your question for you. Tell us, how does TBF work in the sense that you are here in South Africa? This is all going on halfway across the world. How do you all manage, and what was the reason why you decided to go ahead and to have a program such as this?
The question comes around, and I've never been able to answer that question properly because there was no pointless event that made us go this route. And I thought about it, and it's like, actually, there's nothing really. It's just, it's like what you would see every day. Generally people do kind things, they do things. You would see somebody give somebody, a person who's living on the street, some food, or any kind of, small things, big things. It's just the nature of a human being, I think, to want to help others. It's nothing special, and I think we just find ourselves in certain spaces where we just do stuff, and I think what drives us also is the satisfaction that you get from that. I think it's more selfish than anything else, because we gain more than we give. So, and the Almighty guides us. So I think that's basically it. That's why we do this. And if you see the need out there, I mean, it has to touch you. You cannot be the same person once you work in those environments and live the same life that you've been living all your life. It changes a person. Yeah, I mean, I hope I answered that question.
You spoke about the various treatments that you offer for PTSD. What have you or your organization been successful in implementing with these kids?
So Lebanon is still early days, it's just a few months. And we were invited by an organization there to come and have a look at the setup and to see if we could set up a healthcare ecosystem. And like I said, we leverage, so the foundation doesn't collect any money. So we don't get any money. All we do is we facilitate the processes. We bring together funders and service providers, and the funders would pay the service providers directly. We make sure things happen. It's basically self-funded, and we just there to ensure that we put up a system and make sure that it works. And it's sustainable. So for us, sustainability is the most important thing. We've been doing a lot of humanitarian work with other organizations, and sustainability is a challenge. So we will not be able to continue doing what we do unless we put in sustainable processes. And that's the thing, that's where the challenge is, and that's what we're trying to achieve.
Okay, we're going to take a short break.
Teaching you something new every day. Radio Al-Ansar.
This segment is brought to you by Kenfield Auto, your RMI approved service and
Anything
repair
specific you
specialist.
guys want?
236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Kenfield Auto.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء.
Car won't start?
Kenfield Auto.
Noisy brakes?
Kenfield Auto.
Due for a service?
Kenfield Auto. Kenfield Auto, the answer to all your car problems. Your service and repair specialist for your VW, Audi, Suzuki, Toyota, or just about any vehicle. Kenfield Auto, your RMI and insurance approved workshop to handle them all. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Call us on 031 207 2399. Kenfield Auto.
Station for conversation. Radio Al-Ansar.
Doctors and guests on a medical files program will help you with any medical problems you have by giving you advice on air. However, they do not have your full medical history and they have not seen you. Please verify the advice given to you on air with your doctor who knows you better. Neither the doctors nor Radio Al-Ansar will be held responsible for any ill health caused by the advice given on Radio Al-Ansar.
Welcome back to Medical Files, brought to you by the Islamic Medical Association of South Africa. I'm your host today, Dr. Arshad Bhayat. My in-studio guest has been NADIA Bhayat, a neurorehabilitation specialist, and on the line we've had Dr. MS Tayyab, who is part of the TBF Foundation, who are presently working with refugees in Lebanon. Doc, we're almost at the end of the show now. You've given us a lot of information regarding PTSD and what your plans are with refugees, etc. How can listeners be supportive in the sense that what can they do to assist, with the refugees in Lebanon that are coming through from Gaza, etc.?
Good question. Thank you. We would depend on medical personnel, whether you're a doctor, specialist, physio, speech, hearing therapist, all the different fields to assist, volunteer, either online for your hours a week, a month, or be posted to Lebanon, either in Beirut or Tripoli or Sur, one of those places, very, very beautiful places, I must add, for a short period of time to volunteer their services there. So I think that would be one of the things that we can do from medical fraternity.
And those that are not in the medical fraternity that want to assist in any way?
Nadia, can you help me out there?
Yes, I will take all volunteers because we building, like you say, Dr. Tayob, an ecosystem. So we need people, to lend us their skill set and lend us their hands and heart to do this work. So I'm not saying no to volunteers at all. I'll find work for them.
No, absolutely. Every bit helps. And I think that that's an important point that you bring up, dear Nadia, as well, is that we sometimes feel like we cannot assist in any way. There's nothing we can do, but you'll be amazed how much you can do. So we would consider, and I think Nadia would be able to manage that specific part of the program and how people can assist on the ground in the refugee camps or online, whether it's education or whatever it is.
Do you guys have a website or any online presence that where we can see what's going on, the projects, your progress, etc.?
Dr. Tayob, do you want to give them your email address?
I forgot my email address. I think rather give them yours.
Okay, so my phone number is 084-255-912, and my email address is nbayat, BHAYAT, @merckresearch.com.
Okay, so we're down to our final moments now. First, I'm going to ask Nadia to give us some parting points, and then really quickly we're going to ask Dr. Tayob to give us his final words.
So, Dr. Bhayat, I think what's so important for us is that we do heart work. So we want the bridge between science and humanity. And mental health is so often the unwanted visitor in the room, but it's not a luxury. It's survival need. Your brain and body were built to work together. And they need things like safety, nourishment, and connection to do that. So we can all be part of this healing network of heart work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks for that. And Dr. Tayob, your parting words?
Yeah, I think Nadia quite eloquently put that. Sorry. I think everyone can play a role in assisting. There is so much work to be done. Mental health itself is underdiagnosed globally, in our country, everywhere. And I think we haven't been paying enough attention to it. And the medical fraternity as well is guilty of that. I think there needs to be much more focus on that. And especially in the areas that we are talking about, the geographical areas, there's a desperate need. I cannot overemphasize the need there. And, we need so many people to assist, just to get people closer to an even keel. We will not be able to resolve their problems right now. I think it'll take another generation or even 2 or 3 generations before we could actually have a massive impact or turn this thing around. So work is cut out. People can assist, even non-medical people, in terms of having chats with children out there, with their parents, because it's not just the children that are being addressed. Parents are also being educated, caregivers are being educated, and you don't have to have a medical qualification to assist in that way. So we can always guide and train basic ways of assisting those people. And I think everyone can play a role, a meaningful role in this particular exercise. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate that.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the show. I'd like to thank both our guests, NADIA Bhayat and Dr. M.S. Tayyab. I'd like to thank the Islamic Medical Association for the show, and we'd also like to thank my tech today, Asif. For all those out there who are suffering from any sort of illness, whether it be big or small, we make dua that Almighty Allah grants everyone shifa, and hope to have you with us next week at the same time for another episode of Medical Files. From me, your host, Dr. Arshad Bhayat. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
الربيع وماء المطر مقامهم فوق رأس الجبال وفوق الروابي وعند القمر ويا من تحب غياب الوفاء رأيتك تهوى غياب البصر وكم قائل قد أضاعت حياتي